Welcome everybody. Ruth and I just wanted to share with you just some of the things that we sense God saying to us for 2021. It's our practice at the start of a new year to go to God and say, what have you got in store for us personally, but also for St. Paul's? We just want to share with you some of what we felt God say.
So when we first took some time away with God, we felt him say to start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start, as Maria sings in The Sound of Music. And I'm sure for many of us this year, those things that we've previously put our security and comfort and trust in may have been stripped away. And with that, we feel that God's calling us to return to two things. Firstly, to be open to the new. That God's calling us to be willing to let go of some of our past practices. In Isaiah, we read from Isaiah 43 verses 18 to 19, forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. So God is on the move and he's doing and bringing about a new thing. And yet our wrestle was a bit like, well, what about the old things? What's happened to them? And we sense with that the phrase not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but to keep hold of some core values from the past as we look to the new things that God might have in store in the future. So we felt it's a new season, but we need to hold on to the timeless truths. And we need to, in this new season, return and remember that it's about a simple pursuit of nothing but Jesus, going back to the heart of worship, where Jesus is fully at the centre. Yeah. And for us, that means holding on to 5 foundations, these timeless truths. So the 5 foundations that we really want to hold on to are firstly our daily devotion. Each of us encountering God through the Bible and through worship to him, reading his word daily, getting his truth into us. Daily devotion, persistent prayer, being people who are calling out to God, depending upon him, recognizing that he's where our help and our strength comes from in prayer. We want to be people of deep fellowship. That means being authentic and real with one another, going through the highs and the lows. Our 4th value, serving South Harrow. We want to love our neighbours as ourselves. We want to be people who bless and serve others around us. And 5thly, enthusiastic evangelism. We want to be people who are proclamatory and passionate about what we believe in and the God that we believe in. So 5 foundations: daily devotion, persistent prayer, deep fellowship, serving South Harrow, enthusiastic evangelism, a new season, holding on to those timeless truths.
We also asked God whether there's a particular verse that he had for St. Paul's for 2021. And we felt that this was his response. Deuteronomy 10, verses 12 and 13. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, to love, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with your soul, and to observe or obey the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good. So Deuteronomy 10, verses 12 and 13. And there's 5 key words that we want to highlight from that. Number 1, fear. Number 2, walk. Number 3, love. Number 4, serve. And number 5, obey. And it's a little bit, it represents something of our journey with God, with the high point being our love for him. And it's starting, though, with fear. So it starts with number 1 with fear. You know, our relationship with God often begins as we have a sense of awe of his holiness and a sense of guilt, of the sinfulness that we have, and how in the face of a mighty God and a holy God, we need to bow down and say sorry. The might of God, the miracles of God, which reveal his worship, reveal his power, cause us to wonder and to bow at his feet in worship. And secondly, we then, from being people who encounter the majesty of God, we realize that actually he's calling us into relationship, that Jesus called his disciples to come and follow him, that we are to walk with God. We're to come and see, to follow in his ways, to shape our lives around his. We're to be Jesus's disciples and to learn from him in daily discipleship. So we're to fear and to walk. But as I say, the pinnacle of our relationship with God is to love him. And I think even in our natural relationships, we don't quickly say, I love you straight away. Actually, it takes time and trust to get to that point of saying, I realize I'm loved by you, and therefore I feel able to say, I love you. And so as we discover the extent of God's love for us, as we deepen our relationship, we can say to him, Lord Jesus, I love you. And this is, for me, the centre, the high point, the pinnacle, as I say, of our relationship. And it's a bit like going up a hill, that it starts at the bottom with the fear, that as we continue the journey, we walk. And as we get to the top, we love. And Jesus at one time was up on the top of a hill with his disciples when he met with Moses and Elijah, we're told, and he appeared in his full glory. And I believe it's as we love God that we fully know who Jesus is. But Jesus didn't stay on the top of that mountain with his disciples. Actually, they were to continue onward to bless others. And so the fourth thing is to serve. You know, our love for God causes us to serve others. To love God is to love our neighbour, and to be outward in our love for him. We're not to stay on the mountaintop, but to get stuck into the nitty-gritty of everyday life in service. And equally, we're therefore called to obey God. To love me is to obey my commands, Jesus says, and my command is to love God and to love others. It's sort of a cyclical thing. But if we're to obey him, we're to obey that great commandment, but also the Great Commission to make disciples of all nations, to proclaim the gospel and see others come to faith in him. So 5 things that we want to do: fear, walk, love, serve, and obey. So what are we going to do as a church in response to this call? I guess this sense of what God's saying. Well, we sense an invitation, really, that this starts with each of us examining our own hearts. And we've written out 5 questions, which we'll send out with a summary of this as well. And we hope these questions will help you to do this. Very briefly, they are these. Number 1, does God amaze me still? Have I lost my sense of awe and wonder in God? Is God bigger than my fears of what's going on in the world today? That's number 1, all number 1. Number 2, am I growing in my faith? How am I following Jesus each day? Number 3, do I know that I am loved by God? Or have I lost my first love, as John writes to one of those Revelation churches? Fourthly, what am I doing for others out of a heart of compassion? Am I still soft and tender-hearted, or have I become slightly hard-hearted and selfish? And finally, in sense of obedience, am I daily listening to God for that now word, that instruction for today from God to me? And am I quick to obey what I do hear God asking me to do? So 5 questions we hope which will be helpful for you in living out this call for 2021 to not only to look for the new things, to be open to the new, but also to go back to the basics with a new season and timeless truths. Thank you.
Thank you.